It's an interesting question, when does life begin? Because in some ways, I'm not sure life ever ends.
I can say that life begins when people come to God and surrender their life to God. That's when life really begins.
Life begins even before that. Life begins with God, when God created life.
So when the first cell is there is already life connected to it, not only in the physical matter, but spiritually speaking.
The full range of tradition, of course, there's a huge honoring of life.
And we know that in the story of Jesus, even before he's conceived, he pre-exists, according to the Gospel of John.
According to Spiritism, and more specifically in the Spirits book that was codified by Allan Kardec, the Spirits tell us that at conception, that is when life begins. And it is full once the baby is born. So there's a fluidic link between the incarnating spirit and the fetus. And that as the time through the gestation gets closer and closer towards the end, those bonds, they say in the Spirits book, become tighter and tighter. And once the baby is born, then it is fully merged together.
In the Catholic tradition, there is a conviction, and the conviction that life begins in the moment of conception.
I would say even before conception, life begins, because a sperm and an egg is alive. So the human being which produces those is producing life.
There's something sacred and powerful about that ability that human beings have to procreate, that men and women together can create that.
In our understanding, life begins at the moment of conception, when the soul enters in the body of the mother and takes shelter in the womb, and from there starts developing a new body. The development of the embryo in the womb is only possible because of the presence of the soul. Without the soul, the body doesn't change. The fact that the embryo in the womb is developing and growing is the evidence of the presence of the soul, a spiritual particle inside that body.
We see science confirming that a heartbeat of a fetus that is in formation starts beating at 18 days. At 21 days, the heart's pumping blood through a closed circulatory system, showing us that there is life actively forming in the womb.
There is, in the Islamic tradition, a report from the Prophet Muhammad that teaches that the soul enters the fetus at some point along the pregnancy, not at conception and not just at birth, but somewhere in the middle. And so based on that, some scholars say that it's 120 days. That's when the soul enters the fetus. But there's no consensus on the matter.
I think for the most part, the Presbyterian Church respects science. And so as science changes and new knowledge emerges and different debates take place, our congregants are informed by the science. And also our church leaders do not say that life begins exactly at a certain point. Life is a very symbolic word. It has many meanings, and we know in our tradition from the scriptures that people are praying for life even before conception.
The spirit of life is connected to the physical being at the moment of conception. life is a sacred gift to each one of us, and one does not have the right to take the life of another.
We affirm that the life that a mother carries in her womb is life, yet we also affirm that we live in a broken world, and that there are times and situations where men and women have to face choices that they might lead them to choose to terminate a pregnancy.
Part of being human beings is having foresight, looking at our current actions and thinking about their long-term consequences, including unintended consequences. And this is especially important in the area of our sexual behavior, because sexual activity produces new life, and there is a great responsibility. So for me, the challenges of sexual sanity and sexual responsibility are not just questions about abortion, they're also questions about parenthood.
In life we see many people unable to bear children. Where does that come from? Why does that happen? While we see many people hoping for that opportunity to be able to bring a child into the world, we see others who are still covered by the dark reality of materialistic point of view, not seeing that there is a greater spiritual reality out there.
Abortion is permitted, and it's permitted till pretty late in the pregnancy. One of the many principles that Jewish religious law, halakha, balances is the right of the mother to life. In other words, if giving birth to the child would cause physical harm or death, but not even death, just physical harm to the mother, then abortion is permitted under Jewish law. And there are some rabbis who would even say that abortion is permitted if the birth would cause significant psychological damage to the mother. It's not that we don't care about the conception. It's not like we're saying that this is not a life. It is a life, but whose life is more important? It's a complicated matter in Jewish law.
Abortion is not forbidden in Jewish tradition. It's not encouraged, but for sure, if it's an issue of the mother's health, there's no question.
The life of the mother is in danger. In that case, it is clear-cut. Islamic tradition does allow abortion if the life of the mother is in danger. But as I said, it is not an totally agreed upon solution, and people have different views about that.
All killing is wrong, so abortion would be wrong. Buddhism does not take sides, okay, in any argument, okay? Buddhism is neutral. It lets you decide. So you decide what you want to do with your life, and there is where we get the wheel of Dharma. The wheel of Dharma says take responsibility for what you do, okay? There is no right or wrong answer. It is up to you to decide what is right for you. So killing an abortion would be wrong for Buddhism.
When we talk about deviating from the law of God, transgressing the law, in reality we are committing a very serious crime. Sometimes people are forced into a situation where there is an abortion. Sometimes the mother didn't necessarily feel that she wanted to do that, and she does. Everything is taken into account in the law of justice that is created by our Father, our Creator.
Abortion is not something that is generally permitted in the Islamic tradition or encouraged, but contraception is. And so it's completely fine to be on the pill or to use condoms or to use any kinds of prophylactic to prevent a pregnancy.
Abortion is not something we advise people to do, and we don't advise people to take part in, and it is not something that we accept. But we also understand that there are different cases and different reasons why women will choose to have abortion. And when it comes to that, the church does not have the power to decide for any individual what they should do with their bodies.
It's a loss that came because of a choice, and so that can be another important element to help a person work through. But certainly, it is my belief that God's grace is absolutely with that person or persons, that God's grace rather than God's judgment or condemnation.
The Presbyterian Church of the United States of America, they've been very careful to say that who are we to know? And so there may be real reasons why that young woman feels a real sense of sadness and regret, because it was not an easy thing. But I would feel squarely within the Christian tradition and in my own practice of saying that clearly you are forgiven, and now it's about how you live your life going forward.
Based on a wonderful saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said, even if the religious judge advises you about earthly matters, first consult your heart. Consult your heart.
But the most beautiful thing is when the being realizes the mistake and makes an active movement towards reparation, towards wishing to make things right. Sometimes they're given an opportunity, sometimes they are not. Is one mistake worse than the other? A mistake is always going to be a mistake. What matters is when the being is aware of the mistake and makes an active forward movement towards reparation, towards the right conduct. And that's a beautiful thing. It's very normal that we should feel remorse, and we should be conscientious not to allow that to develop into a process of guilt, which eventually will lead to depression.
In my life, many women who went through experiences of abortion came to me. I know my role as a priest, and the role of the church is to be by them with absolute compassion and mercy, to make God in their lives present and closer. So I think we have that word of consolation and mercy.
When we commit such an act, we are left with immense guilt. Although we do transgress a law of God, God, all-powerful, all-intelligent, He's also all love. He allows there to be what we call an attenuation of the law. What does that mean? What we can do to sort of help our situation and also to help myself, to forgive myself. I can volunteer my time to orphans or be one of those people who gets, at least here in the United States, you can become a foster parent where you can take in children that don't have families for one reason or another. So you can help to understand, to put value to family and to life, to sort of make amends to some degree, to show ourselves and before the laws of God that I know what I did wasn't the best decision, but I want to do better moving forward.
If anybody is suffering, if anybody is truly feeling the pain as a result of one's action, it is the mother. And if I am so keen that she keeps the child, what am I doing to take responsibility? Am I saying, I will take care of your child? Am I gathering people and saying, let's take care of this child who's about to be aborted? So am I taking responsibility for that?
We will all make mistakes. It's inevitable. We are evolving. We are not yet perfect beings. We are on a process of becoming perfect, of being aware of the reality of the immortal spirits. What we can do is assist her in the recovery road that she is allowing herself to go back into, to realign her thoughts to the right conduct.
In the wise words of the Apostle Paul, to be absent from the body is to be with Christ. And so I don't believe there is a more beautiful picture than to think of the baby who didn't have a chance to have life on earth, but is already resting at peace with God.
For the soul, there is no birth, there's no death, there's no coming into being at any point in the past, there's no coming into being in the future. The soul is permanent.
flows through many different shapes, many different dimensions, many, what from our point of view, different times and different places.
We should all have the right to be born, and we are way beyond our body.
Now, that's not to say that people will be punished. There is no such a thing. In Spiritism, what we do see is consequences, but they alert us that in reality, we need to give the fetus in creation the same respect that we would a born child, the same care, the same consideration and value of worth of that life in itself.
You shouldn't make a differentiation between a human being who is inside the womb and a human being who is outside the womb. Both are alive, both are conscious, and should be respected.
Kill one innocent life, it is as if you have killed all of humanity. And if you save one innocent life, it is as if you have saved all of humanity. So life is very, very sacred.